Hello everyone, my name's Mallory and I'm here with All About Cats, bringing you our top recommendations for the best dry cat food you can buy. So after hours researching feline nutrition and the cat food industry, reading customer reviews, and trying out a few different recipes with my own cats, I've chosen these 10 products as the best dry foods you can buy right now. So I'm going to try to keep this video relatively brief, so I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty details about these foods, but if you are interested in that kind of thing, we do have a resource for you. In the description there's going to be a link to our complete written buyer's guide, which is going to go in depth on how I chose each of these foods, which qualities we're looking for in the best dry food, as well as an in-depth analysis of each of these recipes. You're going to learn about the macronutrient breakdowns of each of these recipes, as well as a complete analysis of everything else about them. So all that being said, let's jump into it. We'll start with our number one recommendation for the best dry food you can buy, which is Dr. Elsey's Clean Protein. Their clean protein line is doing something that very, very few other dry foods are doing, and that is creating a crunchy, palatable kibble that is also radically low in carbohydrates. So by using gelatin instead of the typical starchy binders you'll see in most other kibbles, this food manages to keep the carbohydrate content extremely low, under 10% on a dry matter basis, and this makes it an unusually species-appropriate choice for your carnivore. This food emphasizes highly digestible protein sources, including chicken, dried egg product, and pork protein isolate. So it should be a highly digestible, really bioavailable source of protein for your cat. So Dr. Elsey's clean protein foods are a bit more expensive than your average dry food. This recipe is going to cost roughly 80 cents per day if you're feeding a typical 10-pound cat, but given its extraordinary macronutrient distribution, it might be worth it for your cat's health. Our number two recommendation is not your traditional kibble. Instead, it is a freeze-dried raw food. These freeze-dried morsels can be rehydrated into a nice tender smush, but if your cat prefers dry food, you can also feed the morsels dry. So this makes them a good option for cats who are in transition between a dry and a wet diet. This food contains chicken muscle meat, organs, and bone, making it a whole prey inspired food that honors your cat's needs as a carnivore. It contains some prebiotics and probiotics, which may help to support digestive health. Because it is a limited ingredient food that is extremely straightforward and also contains some probiotics and prebiotics that might support digestion, we recommend this as a good food for cats with sensitive stomachs. So that includes chronic digestive issues like IBD, as well as food allergies and sensitivities. So again, this food is not your traditional kibble, and it's also not going to be priced the same as your traditional kibble. So depending on how much your cat weighs and how much they eat, this food is going to cost between $2 and $4 per day. Our third recommendation is going to be a good option if you're on a tight budget. So this Kirkland signature food does what so many other Kirkland products do. It combines great quality with a great price. This food's price is comparable to Purina cat chow, but its ingredient quality is a lot different from anything that you would find on grocery store shelves. It's primarily made from clearly named ingredients, with chicken and chicken meal the first couple of ingredients, and it doesn't contain any of the artificial colors and preservatives that you might find in a lot of other lower cost foods. It also contains prebiotics and guaranteed levels of probiotics, which may help to support digestive health and are seldom found in foods of this price. This food is, like most dry foods, really high in carbohydrates, and it's overall not really a species appropriate option, but if you're on a budget and you want a relatively good food, it definitely is a superior choice. So this food is going to cost about 14 cents per day, again putting it in the same price range as Purina cat chow and a lot of other budget foods. Our number four recommendation is another product that takes an interesting approach to dry food. It's an air-dried food from Ziwi Peak. So this New Zealand brand takes a lot of meat ingredients. This food is 96% meat, and then air dries it. Today we're focusing on the mackerel and lamb recipe, which contains mackerel as its first ingredient, along with lamb muscle meat and an array of lamb organs. It even contains lamb tripe, which is an enzyme-rich, very nutrient-rich ingredient that you aren't going to see in a lot of foods. So this food is among the most expensive dry foods you can buy at roughly $2 to $3 per day. Our next recommendation is another product that takes a slightly different approach to kibble creation. It is a baked dry food rather than an extruded food. This food from Tiki Cat's Born Carnivore line is relatively high in protein and emphasizes animal proteins only. The food features deboned chicken, chicken meal, dehydrated chicken liver, and dried egg product as its main protein sources, and it keeps plant protein to an absolute minimum. Though the food isn't a radically low carbohydrate food, it is significantly lower in carbohydrates than many other dry foods on the market. It's going to add up to around 18% carbs on a dry matter basis. Our sixth recommendation is going to be a good option for picky eaters. It's Solid Gold's Indigo Moon cat food. Solid Gold has been around for decades, and it has earned a reputation for quality and consistency and remained a favorite among multiple generations of cats. The food features chicken meal as its main protein source. Like all Solid Gold foods, this product is marketed as a holistic food, so it contains a lot of plant ingredients that your cat doesn't really need, but which purportedly increase the nutritional value of the food. So it contains some peas and pumpkin and carrots. It also contains probiotics, which might help to support digestive health. Though it does contain all of these plant ingredients, the food remains relatively low in carbohydrates compared to most dry foods. It's about 22% carbs on a dry matter basis, which is, again, relatively low, but still more than your cat should be ideally consuming. The food is moderately priced at about 34 cents per day. Next up is our top recommendation for senior cats. So this is a food from Only Natural Pet. It's their poultry dinner recipe. It's not marketed for seniors and you can feed it to a cat of any age, but it does have some qualities that I think set it apart for older cats. First off, it is primarily made from highly digestible, highly bioavailable protein sources like deboned chicken, turkey meal, and chicken meal. And it also contains a few different ingredients that might help to ease inflammation. So it contains both salmon oil and green-lipped mussels, both of which are good sources of omega-3 fatty acids. And omega-3 fatty acids have a really strong reputation for helping to ease inflammation associated with things like arthritis and other inflammatory issues that your cat might encounter during his senior years. The food also contains a mix of prebiotic fiber, digestive enzymes, and probiotics, all of which may help to support digestive health and overall well-being. So overall, this food is far from perfect. It does contain some plant protein sources, which may be less digestible than protein from animals. And it's also relatively high in carbohydrates for an obligate carnivore like your cat. But still, compared to the majority of dry foods, it should be a really good option. So our number 8 recommendation is going to be a particularly good choice if your cat needs to lose weight. It's Small's Simply Cooked Chicken Kibble. So this food is a little bit different from the other ones on this list for 2 reasons. The first reason is that it's not sold in traditional stores. Instead, you're going to go to the Smalls website, set up a subscription, and then receive a delivery of Smalls once a month. The second thing that makes this food a little bit different is that it is made from human quality ingredients in a human food processing facility. So this promises potentially a higher level of quality than you would find in a pet food made from feed-grade ingredients. But other than that, this is a pretty standard grain-free kibble. It contains chicken, chicken meal, and dried egg product as its main protein sources. It also contains some pea protein. The food uses sweet potatoes and peas as its main binders, like so many other grain-free foods do, and in general, it's a relatively high carbohydrate food on par with many other grain-free foods. What sets it apart for cats who need to lose weight is its calorie density. So this food is about 100 calories per ounce, which makes it a nice, relatively low calorie option for cats who need to drop some pounds. That said, I really wouldn't recommend a dry food. Ultimately, for a cat who needs to lose weight, a wet food is always going to be a lot more satiating and is going to be much more helpful during the weight loss process. But I understand some cats are kibble addicts and you can't just change them overnight. This food is a bit more expensive than most. It costs about $1 a day. Our second to last recommendation is our favorite limited ingredient dry food. So most of the time when you see a so-called limited ingredient food on the cat food aisle, it's not actually a limited ingredient food. It very often is going to contain multiple protein sources and a lot of plant ingredients, and it's going to expose your cat to a lot of potential irritants, which is the opposite of what a limited ingredient food is supposed to do. So that's why I'm recommending the Real Meat Company's lamb recipe as the best limited ingredient dry food. Like the Ziwi peak recipe we mentioned earlier, this is an air-dried food. It has a chunky, jerky texture that's quite a bit softer than the texture of Ziwi peak. It also contains vegetable glycerin, which is a humectant that helps to keep the food soft, and I think that's contributing to this. Again, it's quite a bit different from your typical kibble, and according to a lot of customer reviews, it's not always a big hit among cats. But if you are really, really looking for a limited ingredient food, this could be a good option. The food contains lamb muscle meat, lamb lung, lamb heart, and lamb liver as its main ingredients. And it doesn't contain any other protein sources or common irritating ingredients. So with a single novel protein at the heart of its ingredient list, this food is one of the few truly limited ingredient dry foods. This food from the Real Meat Company is a bit more expensive than your average dry food. It costs between about $1.39 and $1.90 per day. And finally, let's talk about our very last recommendation, which is our top pick for kittens. So this food is from the PetSmart exclusive brand Simply Nourish. It's from the Source line, which is their line of higher protein, grain-free foods. And it's their chicken and turkey recipe for kittens. So this food is made with deboned chicken, chicken meal, and turkey meal as its main ingredients. It also, quite a bit further down the ingredient list, contains fish meal. So this is quite a vague term referring to a wide variety of types of fish. So if you're serious about always knowing exactly what's going into your cat's body, this type of vagueness might not be ideal. Overall, though, this food is pretty species appropriate and pretty kitten appropriate. It has plenty of that bioavailable protein that your kitten needs. It's relatively calorie dense, and it has fish oil as a source of the DHA your kitten needs for brain and eye development. That being said, I ultimately wouldn't recommend a dry food for kittens. Kittenhood is the best time to establish good eating habits and the best time to avoid creating a kibble addict. So if at all possible, I would opt for a high moisture diet. As you would expect for a PetSmart store brand, this food is a bit cheaper than most. It costs about 26 cents per day. All right, so we've made it to the end of our list of the top 10 best dry foods on the market. So I hope that this video helped you to choose a great dry food for your cat. Again, I really wouldn't recommend dry food as the best option for cats. Cats really need a high moisture diet, but of all the dry foods on the market, these are definitely some of the best you can buy. If you want to learn more about any of the products mentioned in this video, check out the description. There you'll find links to all of them. Again, you'll also find a link to our complete buyer's guide, so if you're interested in a little more detail about everything mentioned here, I would highly recommend checking that out. Thank you so much for watching this video. Again, I hope that it was helpful. Take care.